Welcome to Caching Waves. This is an Elliott Wave update for Bitcoin. Now this video is going to get quite in depth. This is one of the most important areas of the year for Bitcoin. And I'm going to talk about all the different ways we can either continue to the upside or absolutely collapse. I can't say enough how important it is for this to continue to the upside. Otherwise, the downside potential becomes very likely. So we're going to talk about the daily real quick. Simply put, off our low, have this as a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, looking for a fifth wave to the upside. Our fourth wave low being in at 49,000 according to Binance. There's a couple of different patterns that can be playing out. Important to note, the 1-to-1 in time of wave 1 projected off of wave 4 would take us right to around Christmas time. Other important things to note, have a modified pitchfork on, which is just a channel taken from the beginning of wave 1 off of wave 2, extended off the top of wave 1. Usually we look for our fourth wave to pivot off the high end of that, but our second area we look for is the center channel, which you can see we rejected off of nicely. So it's very, very important this area holds. If we look at the extension of time of wave 2 for wave 4, usually we want wave 4 to take a little bit longer, but it's pretty close. But it's important to note that if this makes another low, it really does open up the chance for a very bearish scenario playing out. So very important to hold this level. And I'll discuss how we can move up from here in a couple different ways and how we can end up failing. It's a very difficult count on the micro, but I'll show you how I am planning to take advantage of that. Is also to note this is just the 1-to-1 extension of wave 1 off of wave 4 if complete. Obviously we'll be tracking that wave out as it pans out and prints the price action, but right now that's sitting at 98,151. Also important to note, we didn't hit the 1.618 extension for wave 3, which leaves us open to the possibility of actually getting an extended fifth wave, much higher potential. But that is all things to talk about in the future once we actually get a 5-wave move to the upside. Now the bearish scenario, I have this as an A B wave complete, looking for 5-wave move down, which is a wave 1 as a diagonal, wave 2 as a flat, and we have our second 1, 2. Our third wave would take us all the way down to around 36,000. That's the 1.618 extension of wave 1 off of wave 2 if complete, in which case we'd be looking for a 4-5 and another 4-5. So that's the worst case scenario, and if that is complete, our wave 2 is in at the 786 retracement of this move to the downside. So we're going to talk about the bullish scenario and the bearish scenario. Go down to the 1 hour and talk about a few things we already had in mind. First was this one. If you remember from last video, we were looking for a diagonal to the upside. It's getting very low probability at this point. You can see we're no longer contracting. This does appear to be 5 waves to me to the downside, so unlikely that this one's playing out. And it does change the point of view of the diagonal for me. I think this is pretty much almost invalidated at this point. And if we did happen to get it, where was that? If we did happen to get it, our fifth wave cannot be longer than wave 3. Otherwise, that would invalidate the rules, which if this low holds, just takes us basically to a double top here. Right? We don't even come up to the channel. So pretty unlikely currently. I'm pretty much eliminating that one as a possibility now. So that only leads us with a few possibilities. Now, I'm going to give these even though I think they're very low probability, and that is that this is somehow a 5-wave move and we have a running flat and we're looking for a third just to launch. Very low probability, but possible. I just wanted to make that as an option seen it before, but I go with most probable. And you can see that our 1 hour diagonal here on the hourly doesn't really make sense anymore. So how can we still be in a diagonal? Because remember, out on the daily, we are on a 5th wave, which we can get a diagonal on. This looks very 3-wave-ish. So we have to use the most obvious scenario, which is following guidelines the best, as our primary count. So my primary count is that we are still within wave 1 of a diagonal. Now these are just very rough pulls, but if this low holds, and this is our WXY within our wave 1, it's important to note that this is a 3-wave move. We'd most likely get a 3-wave move for this wave 1 as a WXY double zigzags. Remember, in ending diagonals, we can get single, double, or triple zigzags in each wave. We can't get a triangle in wave 2, but we can get any other correction for our wave 2, which is up here. We want to see ideally zigzag patterns, but a flat is fine for our X wave here within the wave 1. So it's important to note after this wave 1, which is my most probable case, we'd most likely get a zigzag. We cannot get a triangle. So I took the length of our W wave off of the X, which was a flat, running flat. And if this holds, our 1-to-1 extension takes us up to 73,153, where our wave Y equals our W if the pivot holds. So after this, I would expect a correction down. I'm not sure how deep we come. Somewhere between the 382 and the 618 would be ideal. If we come to the 382, I pulled this pivot. We look for our 3rd wave between the 618 and the 786 extension of wave 1 off of wave 2. So these are kind of rough estimates, but it would take us somewhere around 90K, depending where this 3rd wave hit and how deep this retracement came. So if we zoom out to the daily on this and put our bullish scenario, it gets us a little bit shy of our 5th wave target, which does open the possibility to me that this, that this could just be wave 1 and 2 of a 5th wave and we extend to the upside. So just something I'm keeping in mind, or maybe our extensions, we don't come to 618, we come to a little more extended targets for this ending diagonal. So we'll have to see what happens here in this scenario, but it should get moving relatively quickly. Like we should get this wave 1 complete like within the next 2 weeks. Like we should be looking for an equal length leg here as this W wave in price and similar in time, right? So this should get moving very quickly. So this is my primary upside scenario. And this is either the 5th of the 5th or wave 1 of the 5th. Okay, so let's talk about the bearish scenario. And that would be that our wave 2 is in. This is 5 waves down, looking for continuation to the downside, which again should happen relatively soon. I'll go to the micro time frames and show you that. It's a little bit tough of a pattern, but most likely a running flat here to the downside. So this is my bearish scenario. I don't love it. I don't like that we only came to the 618 extension for our wave 2. Usually we look for a 1-to-1 extension here as a WXY. So I am pretty biased to the upside right now, but it all depends what happens right here. It's very, very important that we hold here, in my opinion. Now we can come slightly lower and get this ending diagonal to kind of grind down a little bit more. That's okay with me. I just don't want to see any collapse. Okay, let's go on the smaller time frames now that we have my bearish scenario as a 1-2 and my diagonal to the upside. This even held very nicely as our our ABC as our flat. You can see how I have it mapped out. We came just to the outside of this channel here, taken from the top of wave W off of B off the A for our C wave target. We've recovered off that area, looking very good for potential recovery. You can see our B wave was right between our expected zone, 1.236 and 382. And we hit the one-to-one extension of this A wave for our C right in that zone. So this does look very much like a flat, as you can see. It's following the guidelines pretty much to perfection. That's why I'm biased to the upside. But I have to say diagonal because this really does look like three waves. I have seen other ways counted as like a 1, 2 on the micro. There's a 3, 4, 5 here, but it just look at the length of this as a wave 1 in a impulse compared to the wave 2, right? It's just terrible. And this made a very nice ABC as well to the upside. So hard to consider this even like a 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so let's focus on these smaller time frames here. So if our C wave is done in our flat, I did make an adjustment to my count, which was fitting guidelines better for fib targets. Last time I had this as a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this would be 4, 5. Which would have us complete in this area. Clearly we came deeper, so I readjusted this count to make the diagonal a little bit bigger, and it does still count very nicely. So we have our wave 1, 2, 3, 5 waves down, 4, 5 is a diagonal. You can see how nicely that fits. This actually came to the 2.618 extension for our fifth wave. Where is it here? 2.618. You can see, boom, right there. So hitting a extension target for our wave 5 looks pretty good to me. And I'll talk about this count here. So 5 waves within our third wave. This ended up being a double zigzag, 5 waves down for our wave 3. No overlap with this wave 1. Counted as so. 3, 4, 5. We then had a 3-wave move to the upside for our wave 4. Again, no rules broken, no overlap. And then a series of 3-wave patterns to complete. ABC. This can be counted several different ways. I can count this as a WXY, where we get a zigzag X and then a triangle. Something like this, WX, and then we get a triangle here for our Y. And then this becomes an ABC here, ABC. Or you can get some sort of double zigzags or triple zigzags in here. Again, in an ending diagonal, you can get double or single zigzags, right? But either way, what we want to see is overlap, 3-wave patterns, contracting nature, or a channel. You can see we're contracting slightly. If we take our extensions, we look for the 618, depending where you count this from. Probably the triple zigzag is best if we want to count this as complete. There's our 618 for our third of wave 1. And how is our fifth? Again, 618. So it qualifies quite nicely as a diagonal. So in the circumstance that we are moving to the upside now in our diagonal, looking for a 5-wave move to the upside. It's not the cleanest. I was looking at this as a very small time frame, and our first wave would be the extended wave within the third as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get our fourth wave, fifth wave to the upside. This would be some sort of diagonal, but not pretty. Go back and look at bottoming patterns for Bitcoin. You're going to see how ugly they get. Very difficult reads until the the next move, right, to prove it one way or the other. But I do see this as a potential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't even look like we got proper extensions, as long as third wave is not the shortest. I don't think that's a 1.618. No, not a 1.618. But sometimes we get that. Important to note, our wave 4 did not overlap wave 1. And it looks like our fifth wave came to the 1.618. That can happen sometimes, especially at the beginning of trends. So my expectation is either a fifth wave complete or a series of nested 1-2s, and we just keep moving up till we finally break out, or this is a 5-wave move complete as a wave 1. In that case, we'd want to pull our fibs. We'd like to get at least a 382 to the 618. You have to pull these exact fibs on your exchange, but somewhere in this zone is ideal. Follow along, look for an ABC. Looks like a zigzag so far, so perhaps we get a WXY down to the zone. Obviously, for this scenario, we need this to hold at the low, and according to Binance, that is 57,128. And after this, looking for that third wave up within the A wave of a zigzag. So that's what I'm looking for in the bullish scenario. Anywhere in this area is fine for upside potential with the stop at that low. So that's where we're at for the diagonal scenario. And it is important to note, if we do just grind down here more, this can get extended out, this fifth wave, right? We don't have a very clean count in this diagonal. The measurements do fit. We did come to a 2.618 extension for the C wave, but if this does just come down, we could be looking for slightly lower lows. So it's not like this could technically, although I don't like it would be expanded at that point, but we could get some sort of expanded diagonal as well, right? But just wanted to make that aware. But this is my bias currently on this setup. Now, how do we get bearish here? Well, there's two different scenarios. This could be our A wave, and we get an ABC to the upside, and this is a micro 1-2, and we absolutely collapse, right? That would be a third of the third starting. So we'd put on our Fibonacci retracements, look for if this area holds between that 50 and the 618 is ideal, but 382 and 786 is the most common for our wave 2, right? So quite a zone. You'd want to follow along this wave count, see what the extensions are. We getting 1.618s for third waves, or are we getting 1-to-1s for C waves? So you really want to be tracking this in real time. It's very important. Now, so that would be if we get an ABC up, and this is 5 waves to the downside. There isn't a scenario where this count is wrong, which is how I originally had it counted. This concerns me a little bit. If you remember my last count, I had this as 1-2. In that case, this would be our 3-4. We'd have 1-2, short 3-4, no overlap, 5. And this is actually our fifth wave. And this would be a wave 1. In this scenario, if this played out, this would be extremely bearish because we'd have a 3. I've mentioned this many times that diagonals look like WXYs as well. They mimic them pretty much exactly. We can put on our B zone. Extend that out. You can see we hit that 1.236. So in this scenario, if our 5 waves are complete here, this would be an A, B, C. And then we absolutely collapse. That is the bearish scenario. Now, where would you look for that to be complete? At the 1-to-1. So in this scenario, we can even get an expanded flat, but first look would be the 1-to-1. We'll throw on the 1.618 in case it's expanded. But in this scenario, 5 waves complete over here. Looking for an A, B, C. And C can come all the way up to the 1.618, around 62K. Or we hold below this wave A, and then we start our third wave down. We just collapse. So what I want to see is, it looks like we have 5 potentially complete. If we get this move back, I want to see either nested 1-2s and we absolutely take off, or this turn into a 1-2, one more slightly lower low, and we take off. This is what I want to see. I don't want to see us come up to this zone in like where this could be a W wave and we get an ABC up to this zone and then start to collapse. That's what I don't want to see. If I see this in like a 3-wave move as a WXY, or as a 5-wave move, but we absolutely collapse and we get a nice 5-wave move to the downside, this is where I'm getting out of Bitcoin and going for that short. That's where it's all going to happen. So we'll see what we get here. These are the 2 scenarios, but this is the most important zone, right? Here and here to get over. And we want to get up and above quickly. Reason I say quickly is if we go back to our 4-hour chart, we should be making an exact match of this leg, right? So it should get moving very quickly. Okay, so that's our recap, guys. Looking for a larger diagonal, or this is somehow a 1 and a 2 with a running flat, and we absolutely take off as a 1, 2, 3. Those are my 2 bullish counts. Or we have wave 1 and 2 in of the 3rd wave. We look for that running flat, and we absolutely fall apart here. All right, so what I'm doing currently is looking for a long. My first long, this is going to be a longer term trade. This isn't a scalp. I scalp all through here too. But my longer term trade will be stop at this low, and I'll be looking to buy a third at the 382.50 and the 618. If I only get a third at the 382 and we start to come up, I'll add the extra on this B wave break where this is an ABC, and I'll raise my stop to this level here, the wave 2 low. This is a 1-2 ABC. So I'm going to put my buy orders at these levels, 1/3 of each, stop at this low, and if I only get the 382 and we break this B wave, I trigger in my long, stop gets moved to the wave 2. That's how I'm playing this, and I'm playing this all the way up for this longer term diagonal. But we'll talk about that in the future. But as of right now, I do have a partial position in. But as of right now, looking to add to this, but just in case this is a series of nested 1-2s, I have a partial position as of right now. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. That's it for Bitcoin. I'll see you on the next one.